and hope that someone would say this is enough. That today's video is a makeup tutorial inspired by the 2016 election, and I had really funny plans. It was going to be all about the funny moments that we've experienced along the way, like when we were joking about Ted Cruz being the Zodiac Killer. Memories, right? The good days. This is just gonna be an everyday look that you might wear to a protest about your rights being taken away, a protest about all the climate policies that are going to be removed, or a protest against an increase in hate crimes that we're already seeing less than 24 hours after the election results, or a protest against a president being elected despite running his entire campaign via bullying techniques. Now, all the products we're using in this tutorial are classics, but that is in direct contrast to what we're seeing today, which is really unprecedented validation of extreme forms of hate. And that's that. Our goal is to get full coverage from this foundation, because this foundation symbolizes the foundation that we're going to need to build as not awful people to stand up against the amount of hate that we're now seeing. And I'm not talking about Trump's hate and the things that he has said. I'm talking about Trump supporters who have a new level of validation and who jumped on board with his campaign very early on, but he never stood to denounce. In fact, his tactics proved to support them. Trump is representative and will continue to represent a deeper, more problematic ideology of hate and violence. That is what we need to build our foundation to stand up against. If we can build a foundation to truly stand up deeply to the roots of our problems, which are deep and racist as hell. Trump is only one part of that. Another important aspect of our foundation is that we already know how to do this. This is one of the most basic things when it comes to applying makeup, and it's also building a foundation. While it can be tough, and it will be tough, we know how to do it. Covering up my razor burn, yes. The ways that we build this foundation are through deep conversations with those around us, those we care about and those we hold close. And that's something that is hard, but that we do know how to do, and I think that's important to remember. While it will be difficult to build this foundation, in the metaphorical sense, we definitely will. We can. We have to. At this point. Don't really have a choice. Now, you may have noticed that I've chosen not to cover my eyebrows, which is a typical thing that people do, but I rarely do because I really love my eyebrows. It's a part of me that I really love, and that's a personal choice that I make. However, in this specific tutorial, me choosing not to cover my eyebrows is symbolic of our ability, or now lack of ability, to cover up and conceal and ignore the deep roots that white supremacy has in our country. The violence and hate that so quickly jumped on to Donald Trump's campaign, that has ridden it out and now has validation. It is the latest culmination of a problem that has not gone away, that we underestimated the size of, that we underestimated the power of, that we can no longer ignore. That, like, these eyebrows in this tutorial symbolize hate, white supremacy, violence, and they will not be concealed. It is no longer possible. We have reached a point in our history with such extreme prominence of white supremacy, like publicly, that we haven't seen in like 50 years. I'm now gonna take my NYX Wonder Stick, which I use to contour and highlight my face. This is where the illusion of our womanly features will come from. However, today our highlights and contours don't symbolize illusions. They symbolize a very harsh reality. This part of my highlight is gonna symbolize the LGBT community, which Trump's policies attack the rights of, and his running mate, Mike Pence, absolutely despises. To all my queer brothers and sisters, this nose highlight is for you. Who else was insulted? I think this this will be for women because Trump has been so misogynistic during his campaign. Next I'm gonna go over here below my eye, and I think this highlight is gonna symbolize survivors of sexual assault, because I know that it's been really hard seeing someone who's accused of sexual assault like 12 times get the treatment that he has anyways, and now the validation of like, you can sexually assault 12 people and still be elected president. This highlight over here is going to be symbolic of disabled, alter-abled people who have disabilities, because they were made fun of extensively in the Trump campaign. I think he did it because it's so acceptable in our society. Like, not surprised by that douchebag attitude. So good. I think next we're gonna do this this chin highlight, and this chin highlight is for our veterans, who Donald Trump insulted also in his campaign. Remember that time when he said prisoners of war shouldn't be honored because they got caught? Remember that? This highlight is gonna be for who else was insulted. Oh, there's such a long list. I'm trying to get to like other things before I get to like all the racist stuff because it was so much. I think this highlight's gonna be for our Muslim family members in the world. The very beginning of Trump's campaign was started on Islamophobia, despite all the facts around radical Islam. The facts didn't matter, only the hate did. Next we're gonna do a contour. So I like to do my cheekbone contour from like this line on my ear and just like right to there, and I like to imagine it as like a wisp, like it's dense over here and then it just like flows out, you know? It's like super fun. So I'm just gonna do that like this. Ooh. And then I like to fill it in because some people really don't like to have a thick contour, but like if it's giving the illusion of a shadow on a cheekbone, why can my cheekbones not be so big that it's just like that dramatic of a shadow? You can't tell me what to do. I think this cheekbone contour is going to symbolize all the racism against the black community and also the brown community. There's a lot of hate and existing racism that has been built on and that Trump has called out. So that one's for you. This one is for the immigrant families who are going to be torn apart if Trump's policies go through, but also for all the bad things that Trump has said that are untrue about immigrants and immigrant families. This one's for you. And then lastly, I'm going to pull up my contour up here on the side of my nose and into my eyebrows. I like to think of it as like an extension of my eyebrows. It just like climbs down my nose. Now I'm going to take my beauty blender. My beauty blender is not clean. It will never be clean, and most people's aren't. And I'm just going to beat this out and just kind of like beat it into my face, and we'll see where we end up when we're all done. When I come to my cheekbones, I like to beat up and leave this sharp line on the bottom and then beat out the top, because if you beat it down you'll get like a beard effect, but if you beat it up and you have this sharp line, it's like, holy, that cheekbone, it makes all the boys very wet. How does that work? I don't know, because I had a really bad education, which you might remember from my video about Measure 98. In the wake of Brexit, another racist, xenophobic political act that happened in 2016, the rate of hate crimes increased between 60 and 400%, depending on which source you're checking. So we knew that was something that was coming, and so me beating these contours and highlights into my face is symbolic of the beatings and violence, mental and physical, that people in my community, people that I'm close to, and all people, none of who deserve hate and violence towards them, are currently facing. A man had a bottle smashed in his face and was called a slur. One of my friends was told that they would have to go back to China once Trump was elected, even though they're not Chinese. A local businessman had water thrown in his face in the business that he runs. People all across the US are worried about whether or not they should wear their hijabs because they're afraid of people who blindly hate Muslims enacting violence against them. These highlights and contours are really what adds that first batch of definition to this whole thing, much in the same way that the bullying and the hate and all the bad things said about many different groups of people really helped shape what we're now seeing, which is the violence and hate. And that's what was the initial tears when Trump was elected. People in my communities immediately started reaching out to each other and making sure that people were okay and that people would be safe. While people have cried at political losses in the past, I think that this is the first one in the last few years where this many people have cried out of fear. A very real violence. Violence that, like, people knew existed, that we saw rise to, and hope that someone would say, this is enough. That. And that people decided that they could look past that, and this violence has been validated by electing this person who may or may not actually hold that extreme of feelings, but did not denounce it and incited that violence. There was already hate in the world that people were afraid of, and now it's awful.